Oh,
Nothing.
all right.
Mayor, take it with her.
It is now 8 o'clock, and we can go ahead and call our committee on appointments to order. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all.
Good morning.
Welcome back, City Clerk.
Yeah.
All right. We have a couple of agenda items on our list today, and so let's go ahead and get started with the first item, which is a resolution authorizing appointments to the 2023-2024 Mayor's Youth Council. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Support. Moved and supported, and Ms. Harris is coming up to the podium and is going to share a little bit more. This is, obviously, you can see a lot of names, and is always great to see young people involved in our city early on, so I'll let you share a couple of words. Ms. Harris.
Thank you, Commissioner, and hello, Commissioners and City staff. Before you is a slate of names for our 2023-2024 Mayor's Youth Council. Our very first Mayor's Youth Council occurred in 1999, and 25 years later, I'm proud to present to you 38 names of young people who are in grades 9 through 12th grade. They filled out an application, they attended an interview, expressed interest in learning about the functions of city government, and want to let their voices be heard on important issues. 39% of the young people you see before you are residents of the first ward, 29% are residents of the second ward, and 32% are residents of the third ward.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing this. Colleagues, any comments? Commissioner Perdue, would you like to say anything?
Absolutely. How'd you know? So most
you on
folks,
deck.
most folks know that I was part of the Mayor's Youth Council with Ms. Harris years and years ago. So really happy to see this and approve this today. And curious, so it seems like the roster has expanded. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, year after year, we see young people wanting to serve more than one term. So we do have many returning students this year. And many other students just want to be a part of the Mayor's Youth Council. So before, probably when you were on the Mayor's Youth Council, I think our max was 15, so 5 per city ward. But we noticed that many more young people outside of the 15 wanted to join. So we leave it open to as many young people that are eligible to participate.
Yeah, I think that's a smart choice, and I look forward to meeting with them this coming year.
Great. Thank you so much. Hearing no other comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
That carries. Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Harris, for your work. We'll look forward to, I think we already have the dates with our respective wards on the calendar for early spring. Thank you. Next is a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Brian Swem to the City Planning Commission. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
This is moved and supported. This is a new appointment. Daniel, Mr. Swem is, I believe, an architect?
Correct, yes. He's replacing the resignation from a few meetings ago.
Yes, thank you. Architect with Pure Architects, I think?
Correct.
All right. Colleagues, any questions? All right, this will make that board full again, and I know the mayor is looking at also some individuals who are coming off at the end of the calendar year, so we'll see some more in front of us. All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries. Thank you. Next is a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Ashley Huey to the Local Officers Compensation Commission. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Colleagues, this is also a new appointment. City Clerk, would you like to just add some comments about the LOCC?
Yeah, so the expiration of that term is 7 years, and it comes up at the end of September. So we're actually ahead. We're actually right in the right time frame that we are. Usually we're trying to fill 2 or 3 at a, just before. So Ashley Huey is actually in the clerk's office in the city of Wyoming, and has some experience with municipal government. So which is good to have that experience as well from a staff level. So I think this will be a good appointment.
So, and a reminder.
She's in the third ward.
And a reminder what the LOCC does.
Oh, the LOCC, sorry. The LOCC sets the salaries for the elected officials. So mayor, commissioners, and the comptroller.
So it's really important to have individuals that have some perspective on compensation, municipal government. So I agree.
And also this will, we were a little heavy on the second ward. So this spreads out a second ward person to a third ward person.
Great. All right, and typically you guys only meet every...
Yeah, so we have to make our recommendations in the spring of odd years. So they won't get together till 2025.
Okay. but important to have it filled. So thank you. Thank you, City Clerk. I think it's important just because the LOCC doesn't come before us a lot, and to just be able to share that. So, all right. Any questions, colleagues? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no opposition, that carries. Thank you. All right, that concludes the business that we have today on our agenda, colleagues. It's been 2 weeks since we met. Has it been 2 weeks? 3 weeks since we met? Wow. It's gone by pretty fast. And so I don't know, colleagues, if you have any general updates about some of the openings. I will point to, thank you, Daniel, for preparing the agenda that you have in front of us that also has the resignations that we have before us. So there's one resignation from Peter Vanderweer. He is moving out of state from the Uptown Business Improvement District and the Corridor Improvement District. Commissioner Perdue, I know you serve on that. If you can send any PIFs that we might have for that one, Daniel, that would be helpful. I haven't seen, I know you send them to us weekly, but I haven't seen anybody for Uptown specifically. And then Matthew Van Heulen for the Housing Appeals Board. So this now takes that body to having 3 openings. It is a larger body. I think there's maybe, 12 members. I was going to say 11. But there's 12 members on that Housing Appeals Board. And so those 2 will be ones that we can look at. We also did receive, colleagues, I know we talked about the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. Daniel and I received a communication from the mayor, but somebody who was interested. I know we were interested again in trying to identify someone sort of 3rd Ward, southwest side of 1st Ward. If we haven't identified anyone, I'd like to be able to share that with you following this meeting for any, future consideration. And then a note that the mayor and I met last week to talk about the openings that she has. Of course, a number of the appointments are hers. So she is going through, we talked about planning, which I gave a little update on. The DID will probably remain the same, but people will have to reapply. I'll remind all of us, we have to reapply as well. I got 3 reminders from Daniel, because it's like whatever, how many boards you're on. But hey, I'd rather have more than none. So please be sure to fill that out, because, it's been at least going to be a year since we've all served. And it's a very simple process to renew that PIF, but we do need to have that on file. And I know Daniel's been working with the liaisons to make sure others, individuals who've been appointed, have also filled that out. So hopefully we're getting a pretty good return rate on that. Daniel, any comments on that?
Yes. No, reminder emails have gone out again. So we're getting the current board members whose terms are expiring. If they're interested, there is the lion's share of those that have reapplied.
And Daniel and I have been working also with Vera from Economic Development for our corridor improvement authorities. Vera keeps a separate, sort of list of attendance and other considerations for the mayor to look at for those appointments. So I think we're sitting in a good spot sort of at the very beginning of October to be able to present to you pretty much all the renewals and any new appointments. I couldn't think of the word for a second, for 2024. But that will probably be, in the past, we've sometimes held a special meeting. I don't think we'll need a special meeting this year based upon where we're at in terms of timing. So thank you, Daniel, for your work on that. So that was a very long update. I said I was going to talk long. But any other comments or questions or considerations for any of the appointments are in front of us?
Just a couple of updates from my end. I know we heard from Katie from Garfield Park Neighborhood Association. She had followed up and said she has some people potentially interested there. If there's someone else interested that either of you are aware of, I know that one's been open for a while, so I would say we can definitely proceed, but still potentially some interest from there. I know there's somebody from the First Ward that was potentially a fit for the DID who filled out a PIF. I know Mayor's out of town, so I'll have to follow up with her on that.
Yeah, feel free to follow up with her. I think on the DID, all those will be reappointed. I think maybe for the DDA, there's an opening that she's looking at.
That might be what I'm thinking of. So, and then CAB, I know Commissioner O'Connor does have an appointment, so I'll have to follow up and see where the PIF's at on that one, but just a few notes.
All right, thank you.
And then I wanted to clarify, Chair, did you say that we commissioners need to resubmit a PIF? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep. So you received, even though you might have received, like, say I received 3 notices for the different boards that I serve on, because I think civil service is technically considered one out of standing committees, right, Daniel? So then I would have gotten one for that. And then the CIA and then Brownfield, you only have to fill out the PIF once. Correct. So you might, depending on you, so you all at least probably got one for the CIAs that you serve on. And I don't, and everything else that they're probably on is standing committees.
Yeah, if not, please let me know. I can get those to you.
Yeah, I haven't got anything. Maybe it's in my personal email. Maybe that's where.
It could be. I can check that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was probably about almost a month ago that I think that I got mine, or maybe 3 weeks ago. It might have been shortly after we broke for commission.
Yeah.
Not really.
And it would have came from you, Daniel?
It would have come from an automated email address from our Granicus Boards and Commission solution.
Okay.
I think it would be get involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
That's what it's called.
That's helpful.
So, yeah, so those are filled out. And I know maybe you can give us an update at the next meeting how those are filled out overall, so we can make a final determination if we do need to have an additional meeting. Because of course, we need to get it back, then it needs to run through the appropriate, it needs to run through income tax, treasurer's office, legal. Who else am I forgetting?
Treasurer's income tax and legal.
Yep,
That's
okay,
it.
that's it. So, and also, if it's a mayoral appointment, again, we look at things like attendance, has anything changed in their residency that maybe they didn't report until now? Those sorts of things. And that reminds me about somebody.
Demographic information, yeah.
Yep. All right. Is there anything else that we should discuss today?
I do have one more quick question.
Yes.
Can you remind me where to locate, I guess, like the eligibility criteria to reapply? Is there I'm just thinking in terms of attendance, is there a specific percentage that they have to attain, or is it just kind of case by case?
It depends on the board. Sometimes it might be outlined in an ordinance or it might be outlined in the bylaws. But I would say if, say the mayor looks at somebody's attendance and it doesn't, but maybe they've missed some significant votes. Maybe it has impeded the body from taking action on something like facade grants. We could still because that decision would be at the pleasure of the mayor, the pleasure of the commission. So there are guidelines, but then there is also, I would say, common courtesy. Yeah,
Commissioner, if I may.
absolutely.
I believe there is, in the city boards and commissions policy,
Packet.
3 consecutive absences or 5 absences over a calendar year would constitute, if the board so chooses, a vote of removal. And then up to and after that, I believe it would be to the board's discretion in the bylaws.
Yep, and thank you, Daniel, for reminding us of the handy-dandy manual that we get every year, and then we file it away, because I'm like, I have 5 copies of this, so thank you for that, because we often forget that. And I think we've also met with the liaisons this year. Again, my biggest concern is we don't ever want to stop the business of the commission, or sorry, of the city. So that might be, thinking of our colleagues in different departments who spend time and energy to prepare an agenda. And the meetings are, they're held at the same time, at the same day, on the same month. And so, I think sometimes we just have to have those critical conversations with people if it's no longer a fit. But also working with employers to say, this is I think being on a board is a great professional development tool. I started because Cascade Engineering said be on a board, and that was in 2006. So Commissioner Perdue was on the Mayor's Youth Council. So, all right, that's my history lesson for today, because it's 8:14. We have talked enough today. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you for this work, and we are adjourned at 8:14.
right, good morning, everyone. We'll call for the fiscal committee to order here at 8:30. We'll begin with resolution accepting a grant award from the U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, Office of Justice Programs, Bureau of Justice Assistance, Paul Coverdell Forensic Science Improvement Grants Program in the amount of $16,880.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Weibel, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. Matt Weibel, Chief of Staff at the Police Department. I have with me Julie Snyder, our Forensic Services Manager, to talk about this grant.
Good morning. As we all know, our training budgets are quite limited, and this grant, if accepted, will complete Jessica, our latent print technician, her training program to be promoted to a latent print examiner, and our current latent print examiners fulfillment of credits for recertification.
Very good. Colleagues, any questions about this? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Item 2, ordinance amending Section 4 of Ordinance 2022-38, new classification, Battalion Fire Chief, Emergency Medical Services.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Eddy, good morning.
Good morning, Michelle Eddy, Interim HR Director. The Grand Rapids Fire Department functions as medical first responders in the city, generally beating private ambulance companies to the scene of an emergency and providing patient stabilization and life-saving care. Over the past couple years, the department has been working to transition the organization from the medical first responder licensed agency to an EMT agency. The department anticipates transitioning to the EMT agency by fall of 2023. The department currently has 31 paramedics, 132 EMTs, and 30 medical first responders. So with the additional scope of practice and additional responsibility and workload, we are requesting to add a new classification titled Battalion Chief of EMS to reflect these new responsibilities. This classification will be placed in salary range 6B, and it will remain in the firefighters union. The classification and the salary range were reviewed and approved by the Civil Service Board on September 19th of 2023.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Item 3, resolution authorizing an agreement with Puertas Abiertas for the total amount not to exceed $100,000.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Anyone here to talk about this? Mr. Saindon, you want to?
Yeah, I'd be happy to take this one. Good morning, Commissioners. What you have before you is a resolution authorizing an agreement with Puertas Abiertas for a total amount not to exceed $100,000. This is a project that's part of our participatory budgeting process, which, if you'll recall, set aside $2 million of ARPA funding. Puertas Abiertas was selected for the Supporting Victims of Domestic Violence program, and this program focuses on the empowerment of victims of domestic violence and human trafficking in the First Ward. A corresponding budget amendment will be brought forward at a future commission meeting.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4, resolution authorizing an agreement with the AYA Youth Collective for a total amount not to exceed $290,000.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Saindon?
Yes, this is a resolution authorizing an agreement with AYA Youth Collective and a total amount not to exceed $290,000. Similar to the last item, again, this is a project that is part of our participatory budgeting process. The AYA Youth Collective was selected for the Youth Affordable Housing and Support Initiative. It will create a space where youth can be involved in leadership opportunities, and the RFP included goals such as helping youth quickly exit homelessness and return to permanent housing, incorporating support for pursuing education, employment, and life skills. And this program is also going to partner with educational institutions and community organizations to contribute to the success of the program. Again, a corresponding budget amendment will be forthcoming at a future date.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 5, resolution approving a release agreement with Aetna Supply for $500,000 reimbursement to the City of Grand Rapids related to the street lighting control modules.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Hart, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. What you had before you was an agreement with Aetna Supply for reimbursement of $500,000. The city's had a long-standing relationship with Aetna for a variety of products over the years. with census, brand water meters, street lighting control modules, software, and a number of things. What we found in the street lighting control modules, we had some functionality issues. We've been working through that with Aetna for the last 2-3 years, trying to figure out how to make get to a solution. We reached an agreement, which is before you today, and asking for your approval of this agreement with Aetna Supply for $500,000 reimbursement.
Very good. Questions, colleagues? All right, hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Item 6, resolution approving funding for expert appraisal services in defense of ongoing litigation pending before the Michigan Tax Tribunal, MTT docket 23-001232, in an amount not to exceed $29,000.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Good morning, Ms. Jasper.
Good morning. My name is Paula Jasper. I'm the city assessor, and we have an appeal. Sorry. Paula Jastifer, city assessor. We have an appeal before the tax tribunal for a very large property, and so we want to contract for expert appraisal services, and this includes the cost of the appraisal as well as the estimated amount of testimony in court.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? All right. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 7, resolution authorizing capital improvement bonds in an amount not to exceed $10.5 million.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Sandin?
Good morning, Commissioners. Again, before you is a resolution authorizing capital improvement bonds in an amount not to exceed $10.5 million. On August 8th, the City Commission approved a 45-day notice of intent regarding the issuance of these capital improvement bonds. At the time, the amount was estimated to be $12 million. The attached resolution authorizes the issuance of this Series 2023 bonds with a principal sum of the bonds not to exceed $10.5 million, an interest rate not to exceed 6%, and maturities not to exceed 20 years. The proceeds from these bonds will finance improvements to Lion Square, including construction, costs of demolition and removal of obsolete public fixtures, construction of new roadways and walkways, streetscape and landscape improvements, and other public amenities. The annual debt service on these bonds will be just slightly above $700,000, and that does align almost exactly with the amount projected in the fiscal 24 fiscal plan. The last thing I'll note is 80% of the semi-annual debt service payments will be reimbursed to the city by the Downtown Development Authority as approved at their September 13th meeting. 80% of $700,000 is approximately $560,000 of that annual debt service will be reimbursed. We're looking to price these bonds about November 7th and close on them around November 22nd. Thank you.
Very good. Colleagues, questions about this? All right. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 8 is our bid list resolution for October 10, 2024.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Sandin, any?
Commissioners, I have nothing noteworthy, but am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Colleagues, questions about any of the items on the bid list?
No.
All right. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 9 is our warrant report for 9/5/23 through 9/26/23 and travel report for August 23. Mr. Comptroller.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the period referenced there, we released cash payments totaling approximately $53.6 million. That includes $10.3 million for our employee payroll expense and just over $196,000 for income tax warrants. In terms of quantity, we released 692 income tax refunds and 1,911 checks and electronic payments during that period. The tables on the following pages contain the details of all the payments that exceeded $20,000. Also, we have for you the August fiscal year-to-date travel report representing the first 2 months of the fiscal year travel spend for each department. And that report so far is showing that we spent $241,000, or about 9% of the total annual budget of about $2.8 million.
Very good. Colleagues, questions for the Comptroller? All right, with that, that will be received and filed. And final item on the agenda this morning, Treasurer's Report, period September 5/23 through September 25/23. Morning, sir. Mr. Bolt.
Morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Wanted to report on a relatively unique trade that we entered into. Back in August, Chippewa Valley Public Schools issued a tender offer in some of the bonds that we held in our portfolio that they had issued. Tender offer is basically when a bond issuer essentially changes their mind. They can't twist anybody's arm, but they can say, hey, we would like to retire these bonds. Will you take this much for it? Essentially is how it works. The decision was made to accept that tender offer on 3 different bonds that we held in the portfolio. Now, in 2 of those, that resulted in a net gain right off the bat. On one of them, however, it did result in a loss of principal. However, that was temporary because those proceeds have been reinvested in Treasury securities, maturing essentially at the same time as the original bond, so we're not changing the maturity profile of the portfolio at all. It's a pure swap, one security for another. The one that did wind up with a temporary loss of $136,761.87 was reinvested, and ultimately will wind up with a net gain of $30,710.53 more than we would have gotten had we not taken the tender offer. So it's a little bit complicated, but essentially it's one of those like, okay, I'll take a little bit of a hit up front, but getting a gain down the road. Otherwise, the Fed keeps chugging along. Their last meeting, they held rates steady. The market is relatively split as to whether they will raise at the next meeting or the one after that. It's roughly 50-50 based on market pricing of what people think is going to happen. For what it's worth, the Fed's own summary of economic projections does indicate that most likely there will be another quarter-point increase at some point between now and the end of the year. Any questions?
Colleagues, questions for Mr. Bolt? All right. With that, that report will be received and filed, and we will conclude this meeting at 8:42. Thank you, everyone.
I wasn't gonna take vacation. Take vacation. Watch my
Community Development Committee begins right now. It's approximately 9:15. Our first resolution this morning is a resolution approving a fireworks discharge permit for Field Entertainment doing business as Jurassic World Live Ringling Brothers Circus for indoor special effects at the Van Dando Arena in connection with the Jurassic World Live Ringling Brothers Circus on October the 20th through the 23rd, 2023.
So moved.
Good morning, Mr. Jensen.
Good morning. Well, it's a typical Disney. To be some flamethrowers and a lot of pyrotechnic effects and handheld devices. So, yeah.
I want to see the flamethrowers.
I got a picture if you like to see it.
Oh, they will. I'm too far away. Colleagues, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our second resolution is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement with Grand Action 2.0 regarding the interim relocation of city operations for a portion of 201 Market.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Mr. Hurt.
I think
Mr.
I'm
Hurt.
covering this
Yeah,
one.
all right, Mr. Hurt, thank you
Ms.
so much.
Behrens is out today, Commissioners. As you know, the city entered into an option agreement to sell property at 201 Market to the Convention Arena Authority back in early 2021. The CEA formally exercised its option to purchase the property in March of 2022. In June of 2023, the city and the CEA agreed to certain details around the timing of the closing and the sale and phased relocation of city services off of this property in order for the 12,000-seat amphitheater to be on the site. We've been working through this agreement for some time, and as you know, the city will permanently relocate these operations over to 1500 Scribner, where the Kent County Road Commission site that we just purchased, and we finalized that sale in September. The city and Grand Action will prepare interim facilities on other city-owned properties to temporarily house some of the city functions and fleet that we have located at 201 Market. The proposed agreement includes terms around the interim facility work, installation of temporary tent structures, office space, showers, bathrooms for our employees, at the southern portion of the 201 Market site near our fleet building, as well as location at the city's water resource recovery facility at 1300 Market. So we're asking for your approval of this agreement regarding the interim relocation of city operations from a portion of 201 Market.
We've been working on this for a long time, so it's about time that we're getting to the point where we can start to see some action take
You
place.
can see it, it's starting to happen now.
Yeah. Colleagues, any questions?
I'll just add my thanks as well. I know we've had many conversations about this, and we realize it's a big ask, but excited to see the work happening, and we appreciate the sacrifices made from the city staff to meet some aggressive timelines. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Our next resolution is a resolution scheduling a public hearing for October 24, 2023 to consider a brownfield amendment for the DeVries Jury redevelopment project located at 433 Leonard Street Northwest.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Closter.
Good morning. This is, as you mentioned, just scheduling a public hearing for your next meeting on a brownfield plan that was approved and recommended to you by the Brownfield Authority at their last meeting. The project is the relocation of DeVries Jewelers, which has been located on Leonard Street for a long time, since the early 1900s. The project is the demolition of the former Lanning's restaurant. That's the most recent use, and construction of a new two-story building for DeVries Jewelers. They currently employ 12 people and expect to add some new jobs, 4 new jobs over the next couple years. The brownfield the property is contaminated, so it meets the qualifications for the brownfield program, and the plan requests reimbursement of just under $300,000 for the brownfield eligible costs for that property. The project did receive support from the West Grand Neighborhood Organization, and it also received approval from the Planning Commission for the proposal, which was required due to the amount of parking there. The parking exceeds the maximum parking provided in the zoning ordinance, but it's intended to support other businesses in that area, and received support, as I mentioned, from the Neighborhood Association as well.
Yeah, it is a very worthwhile project, and we had a chance to see it in our brownfield meeting. And I'm excited to see that they are doing some real development with that old Lanning's restaurant. That's a place that's been in existence for a long time. Colleagues, any questions? It is a building in the First Ward, Commissioner, so kudos for your project. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Resolution number 4 is a resolution scheduling the public hearing for October 24, 2023, to consider establishing an industrial development district for Ascent Fine Cabinetry at a 2150 North Ridge Drive Northwest in the Walker View Industrial Park.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Closter.
Yeah, these next two items are related to the same project. So Ascent Fine Cabinetry is a company that's located in Ada currently. They have a 5,000 square foot facility there. That's a showroom. They are a custom cabinet builder, primarily for the residential construction market, and they employ about 10 people. There in Ada, they will be building a new 15,600 square foot facility in the Walker View Business Park, which is in the city of Grand Rapids for taxation purposes, pursuant to an agreement between the city of Walker and the city of Grand Rapids. The project's about a $2 million investment from the company, and they will be adding 5 more jobs over the next couple years, with wages ranging from $18 to $28 an hour. This is just continued development of the Walker View Business Park. We've seen lots of good projects out there that we've been able to help facilitate with our Brownfield Authority, and then programs like this that includes Falk and Flexco and Design Manufacturing. Lots of good jobs out there, and this is continuation of that effort.
Colleagues, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 5, resolutions scheduling a public hearing to consider an application for an industrial facilities exemption certificate filed by Ascent Fine Cabinetry for $2 million. Project located at 2150 North Ridge Drive Northwest in the Walker View Industrial Park.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Colster.
Yeah, nothing, I should have added, the only additional thing is that pursuant to the agreement between Walker and Grand Rapids, Walker does receive 2/3 of the income taxes that employees pay there, but the city does receive 1/3, and that is represented on your, in your memo.
Thank you, sir. Colleagues, any questions?
I do have a quick question. Regarding that agreement, is that just for this business, or I guess I'm curious what the boundaries are of the industrial park, because I wasn't aware of that.
Sure. I do believe there's a map in your agenda packet there. I think it's about 250 acres in total. That was facilitated between Walker and Grand Rapids largely to support the infrastructure development of that property. And so, it is a little bit unique. We have done this several times with the ability of the Public Act 425 allows us to conditionally transfer property and negotiate the terms and conditions of that. And in this case, it was for the development of the business park and the infrastructure improvements there. And as I mentioned, has resulted in a lot of good projects. So it's not specifically for this project. It was for the business park as a whole.
And I'm seeing that in the agenda, so thanks. Yep, thank you. I appreciate that.
Colleagues, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Our next resolution is resolution setting Tuesday, October 24, 23 at 7 p.m. as the date for the City Commission to sit as a board of review to hear appeals on special assessment nuisance row 8782. Mrs. Juster, good to see you.
So moved.
Support. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Paula Jastifer. I'm the City Assessor. And back in July, the City Commission ordered a nuisance roll created. We sent out notices September the 7th and notified the people or the property owners that were on the nuisance roll. And this will allow them the public forum to file an appeal. They also can file an appeal with our office. They don't have to come to the public hearing, but we are required to do the public hearing and have the City Commission sit as the board of review to hear those appeals.
Colleagues, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Resolution 7, Resolution awarding a professional service agreement for construction management services with Owen Ames Kimball Company for Grand Rapids Public Museum in the amount of $4,181,141, with a total amount not to exceed $8,003,702.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Bergman.
Good morning, Commissioners. So we've been working with the museums team for some time to help implement and carry out their vision to renovate and expand their facility, as well as enhance and improve the riverfront there along the museum's frontage. And so this is really the first portion of the first phase, so 1A, if you will, consisting of earthwork, aggregate piers, and micropiles. This will provide the base for the river edge enhancements, consisting of enhanced river access, educational opportunities, trails, seating, and accessible gathering spaces. The team previously selected OAK as the construction manager through a qualification-based selection process, and OAK has since sought bids for this phase and is ready to move forward with construction. So the resolution before you provides for the approval of the construction management services with OAK in that amount of $4,181,141, and the work is scheduled to begin yet this fall.
Okay. Any questions, colleagues?
Just a quick one. That goes from 4 million to 8 million.
Yeah, so that 8 million is the total project cost. So there have been three proceedings prior that covered the architectural services. So there's design, about $3 million of that is design work, and there was one covering pre-construction phase services that OAK did. And so adding in those plus contingencies plus construction inspection, that's where you get that total. But that heavy front end is really covering the design not only for this phase but all phases associated with the project.
Okay.
So we're looking at pretty much 8 million.
Yes. Yeah, the contract award, though, is that 4.1 million.
Colleagues, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Resolution number 8, a resolution approving a release easement and accepting public utilities easement for Savannah at Waterford Village Phase 1.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Bergman.
This is a multifamily apartment development in Walker that's being served with public water main. There was a public utilities easement previously accepted by Commission back in August of 2022. However, during construction, it became necessary to relocate a fire hydrant that was now outside of the recorded easement. So this action will release the original easement and then accept the new revised easement.
Any questions, colleagues? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Resolution approving a construction agreement for the Savannah at Waterford Village Phase 2.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Bergman.
This is the second phase of the same development in Walker. This portion involving 5 commercial buildings and 10 single-family homes that will connect to water and sewer utilities. So this is our standard construction agreement that I'm requesting your approval of.
Any questions, colleagues? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Resolution 10, a resolution approving a construction agreement for $52,490 for the current apartments.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Bergman.
This agreement will facilitate construction of 72 apartment units that'll be located within the city at the southeast corner of Plainfield and Quimby. I'm requesting your approval of the construction agreement that'll cover work within city-owned right-of-way, so relocation of some city street lighting, some storm sewer work, and other improvements associated with the right-of-way. Per the terms of the agreement, the developer will be depositing that amount in escrow of $52,490 to cover any of the city's costs associated with administering this project.
Very good.
Are they going to be blocking off parts of Plainfield then at that corner? You know, they just opened up.
Yeah.
Farther down on Plainfield.
Right. They
really
did.
hurt a lot of people.
About a week ago,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I'll have to check the sequencing plan, but I think most of the work is along the edge, and the storm sewer work that's happening is minor, so I think it shouldn't be an impact to traffic, but I can confirm that for you.
Yeah.
Commissioner?
Thank you.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Resolution 11, approving a construction agreement for Ironwood Manufacturing.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Bergman.
This is a light industrial manufacturing development that's located in Talmadge Charter Township that'll be served with sewer and water utilities. So requesting your approval again in this case for the construction agreement to implement those installations.
Questions, colleagues? Thank you, Mr. Berkman. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Resolution 12, resolution approving a preliminary engineering agreement with CSX Transportation regarding improvements to the Grand River East Riverfront from Fulton Street to Wealthy Street with a total not to exceed $17,050.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Berkman.
So we've been working with our partners at DGRI and developing preliminary designs for the East River Edge between Wealthy and Fulton. Really, this is the 201 frontage on the river side, but along that entire corridor between Wealthy and Fulton, that'll include a pathway. This segment also includes a potential crossing, of course, with the CSX rail line, which is just at the southern end of our 201 property. And since we're considering improvements within their right-of-way, CSX is requiring that we execute this preliminary engineering agreement with them in that amount of $17,050, which covers their costs of review and administering the project from their end. So requesting your approval of the agreement and that authorization of funding to come from the Capital Improvement Fund.
Colleagues? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Resolution 13, resolution approving an amendment, number 1, for professional engineering and inspection services agreement for parking structure with a 3-year extension ending October 31, 26.
So moved.
Support.
So 3 years ago, the city approved this term agreement with 5 consultants to provide professional engineering and inspection services at city-owned parking structures. So services under this agreement are performed on an as-needed basis, consisting of inspections and evaluations, structural analysis when needed, recommendation for preventative and capital repairs, and other services. So the original agreement included a provision at the city's option to extend for an additional 3-year period, and we're now at that point where we would like to do so. So asking for your approval of that amendment, which will extend through the end of October 2026, and there's no increase in previously authorized expenditures needed at this time.
Questions, colleagues? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 14, resolution entering into a professional service agreement with McGraw Construction Incorporated for accessibility improvements and at 300 Monroe Avenue in the amount of $43,775 with a total amount not to exceed $214,680.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Berkman.
So this project will provide elevator access from all levels of the parking ramp to the Monroe level lobby of this building, the city-county building complex here at 300 Monroe. The elevator will be located where the north stairwell currently exists within the Monroe level lobby, and entrances and landings will be created at all levels to provide accessibility improvements, and ADA parking spaces will be relocated to the areas in front of those entry doors throughout the parking garage. The project team is recommending use of a construction manager for this project to help with pre-construction services during design and pre-purchase long lead time items, which elevators are long lead time items, and eventually solicit bids. We went through a qualification-based selection process on this project, and the team selected McGraw Construction. So the resolution before you is for their pre-con services or pre-construction services in the amount of $43,775. Financing to come from the Capital Improvement Fund, the Parking System Fund, and Kent County for their share of the overall project. And then we'll eventually return to you with the bid package at a later date.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Resolution number 15, resolution accepting a public utilities easement for 50/100 Corin Development, Phase 2.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Berkman.
In July of 2019, Commission approved a construction agreement for this development that's located in Grand Rapids Township, where a sewer was constructed to serve 2 buildings on a single parcel. with one of those two buildings to be constructed at some point in the future. Since that time, the owner has decided to split the parcel so that it could be sold and developed separately. However, our requirements do not allow for two buildings on separate parcels to be served with one sanitary service lateral. So it was proposed to convert the 8-inch line that's in place into a public sewer, requiring the installation of a manhole. So I'm asking for your approval of this construction agreement and associated easement, which will allow this plan to proceed forward.
Colleagues? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Resolution number 16 is a resolution awarding a contract with Strand Electric Company, LLC, for replacement of traffic signals and pedestrian crossing enhancement in the amount of $548,237.50, with a total amount not to exceed $809,250.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Bergman.
So we've been working with Mobile GR to replace traffic signals and install pedestrian crossing enhancements at 3 intersections. Those are Fulton and Strait, Fountain and Diamond, and Kalamazoo and Langley. The signals will be modernized with configurations that will improve overall safety, and all sidewalk ramps will be replaced to meet current ADA standards. We received 2 bids, with Strain providing the low bid of $548,237, which was below the engineer's estimate of about $565,000. So asking for your approval of this contract award to Strain in that not to exceed amount of $809,250 to come from the Streets Capital Fund and the Parking Systems Fund, and this work is scheduled to begin in the spring of 2024.
Okay. Thank you. That was the question I was going to ask. I thought I saw spring.
Yes.
Colleagues, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Resolution 17 is a resolution awarding a contract with, forgive me if I pronounce this name wrong, is it Caterberg, Verhenge? Verhage. Thank you so much. I've struggled with that all week. Caterberg Verhage Incorporated for car services, lot expansions in the amount of $274,320, with a total amount not to exceed $428,200.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Bergman.
So this project will reconstruct and expand the parking lot at the City Archives and Records Center. Operations at the location have changed, and the number of staff members have grown substantially, which has consumed all the parking lots. And at many times, staff and visitors parking overflows into the drive lane off of Washington Street. So this project will create 12 additional parking spaces. We received 3 bids, and Caterberg provided that low bid amount of $274,320, which was just over our engineer's estimate of $265,000. So asking for your approval of the award and that authorization of the total not to exceed amount of $428,200 will come from the Capital Improvement Fund.
Colleagues, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Resolution number 18, resolution entering into a professional service agreement with Integrated Architectural, LLC, for design phase service in connection with the construction of the new Kendall Street Fire Station in the amount of $451,450, with a total not to exceed $529,870.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Bergman.
So this project will design and construct a new 8,800 square foot and 2 apparatus bay fire station at the corner of Kendall and Kalamazoo. Again, utilized a qualifications-based selection process with the fire chief and his team to procure a design professional, and the team is recommending moving forward with the integrated architecture project team that includes BRW Architects. That team's demonstrated vast experience, having worked on 300 firehouses across the country, and in particular, they noted many that showed an ability to appropriately integrate a new structure into an established neighborhood, which is very important in this case. Integrated also has a local presence here in Grand Rapids and is currently working on 2 fire stations in Holland, who also gave very high recommendations for this team. So I'm asking for your approval of the agreement to move forward with design services with that not to exceed amount of $529,870 coming from the Capital Improvement Fund.
I'm excited that we are working on our fire stations. because I think they're a plus to our communities. And with the amount of services that they do in the community, it is good to make sure that they have the equipment that they need and the building that they need that's sufficient for them to do their job. Colleagues, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Resolution number 19, resolution entering into a professional service agreement with Integrated Architecture LLC for design phase service in connection with the construction of a new Division Avenue Fire Station. Yay, yay. In the amount of $705,450 with a total amount not to exceed $828,550.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Bergman.
So in this case, an 18,000 square foot station, having also a large 75-person community room and training tower associated with it to be located at the corner of Division and Elm. We went through, again, the same extensive process that I referenced in the last item, and the team again selected Integrated Architecture and BRW as the most qualified team for the same reasons already stated. So seeking your approval to execute this agreement, again, with Integrated, with that total amount not to exceed of $828,580 coming from the Capital Improvement Fund.
Any questions, colleagues? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. This will conclude our meeting this morning. Everybody have a great day.
everyone. We will call the Committee of the Whole to order here at 10 a.m. and we'll kick our meeting off this morning with an introduction of the City Water Career Program 2023 graduates and the incoming 2023-2024 utility aid interns. And I'll turn it over to our City Manager, Mark Washington.
Thank you, Commissioner. The city has the fortunate opportunity to have a great water department, great water system, and it's because of the fine employees who are committed to serving our community and the leadership we have in the water department. I want to thank Wayne Jernberg and Hillary Karen for their work in ensuring that in this era of fierce competition for talent, we have done our best to not only be competitive in the market, but also to create our talent pipeline internally in the department. And today we want to celebrate that and acknowledge some of the hard work of the employees and the interns who have been part of our water program in partnership with GRCC. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Jernberg.
Thank you. So we're here today to recognize, first let me talk a little bit about the program. In 2022, we started this program in partnership with Bay College and Grand Rapids Community College. We've been fortunate to get a large chunk of money that's allowed us to have the first class come through and graduated, and really we're starting to see the fruits of that labor with all of them receiving job offers either with the city or neighboring municipalities. This past August, we've started our second class. We continue to work towards additional grant dollars to keep this program running and moving forward. We are committed to making this sustainable year after year. The group that we have here today represents, there will be 2 graduates from the program, and 7 of our 8 individuals that are currently interns are with us today. They basically, the program is they are paid interns as utility aid interns. They work 24 hours a week, and then the rest of the time they're actually working on studies with courses through GRCC and Bay College focused on the water and wastewater industries. So we're really proud of the efforts that they're putting in. The work that they put in will position themselves to be able to take exams down the road that will allow them to become operators for either water or wastewater. So we're really excited about our program. As the city manager noted, Hillary Karen is really the brainchild behind this, and she does a fantastic job in terms of of bringing people together, bringing opportunity together, and most importantly, educating our youth and those that are in the program and moving them forward. So without further ado, I want to recognize the 2 graduates that we have here today. Shiloh Busamra. You want to raise your hand? Shiloh is employed in environmental services. He's an engineering assistant 1. Also here today, and she is a wastewater plant operator 1, is Abigail Cairns. We're excited about having both of them here today. The other 3 graduates that could not be here today were Alex Tumbling, Daniel Martinez, he's working 3rd shift as a wastewater plant operator for our WRF, and then Andy Denial, he is a water plant operator for the city of Wyoming. He was hired directly from us. So thank you to all 5 of you. And then the other ones that we have here today are the interns, the current interns that are working for us right now and doing their studies. First up, Casey Black. He's working out at our water filtration plant. Sarah Boiling, she too is working out at our water plant. Kevin Cortez Medina, he's working at the environmental services at the WRF. Jacob Fink, he's out at our Lake Michigan filtration plant. Johnny Holland, she's also out at our water plant. Nicholas Holland, he's out at the water plant. And Collins Peter, he's also at our water plant. The one that could not be with us today, Angel Vasquez, he has the day off and was not able to make it in. He's working at our WRF as well. So I want to thank each one of these for submitting applications and being selected for the program.
Thank you, Mr. Jernberg. And actually, if we want to invite you guys up, we'll get a quick photo if you don't all mind. And you want to come up to the dais here. And
You did have that off though, right?
I did.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner?
as folks are leaving, can I make a quick announcement?
Please.
I think, did I hear today was your birthday?
Maybe.
All right. Well, we were just celebrating, obviously, the great work of the city staff and thinking about programs, and so I think it's important to celebrate people. So happy birthday to you.
There you go. I was given the gift of the chairmanship for the day. All right, on to our second item on the agenda this morning. This is going to be a resolution approving a transformational brownfield plan amendment for Factory Yards Transformational Brownfield Project at 565, 573, 640, 655, 835, and 943 Godfrey Avenue Southwest, 700 Martin Luther King Jr. Street Southeast, 615, 620, and 644 Chestnut Street Southwest, and approving and authorizing the execution of an affordable housing agreement between the city, the Brownfield Development Authority, and 655 Godfrey LLC. Can you get a motion?
So moved.
It's moved and supported, and we'll invite up Mr. Klooster from our Economic Development Department. Good morning, sir.
Good morning and good job reading that whole thing. I don't have a lot to add. This project has been in front of you several times. This is the final approval, and the next two items as well relate to this project. It is obviously the first transformational brownfield plan for the city of Grand Rapids. It is, just as a quick reminder and overview, 15.5 acres, $147 million project. 467 residential units, 20% of which will be below market, which is what the affordable housing agreement relates to. Retail and office space, a half-acre courtyard, 825 parking spaces, and opportunities for up to 226 jobs. Public hearings were held at your last meeting at the Commission Night Out at the Goey Center. And this has been a long time, long process to get to this point, with a lot of cooperation from a lot of internal staff, external stakeholders, and the developer. And we're happy to be here requesting final approval of this project this morning.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate this project happening, and it being in the first ward, I'm very, very excited about the future of what's going to happen on Godfrey Street with the public investments we've made as a city, and now this significant private project going to happen. And I think it's a model of a responsible way for developers to engage with both the neighborhood and the business community and the chambers. This is a really great project. I'll turn it over to my colleagues if anyone has any questions or comments before we take a vote here. Commissioner Sassi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Mr. Klooster. I'll echo those pieces. Commissioner Moody and I have the chance to sit on the Brownfield Board and have seen, I think, the good work and the complex work to get this final deal done. So thank you, Jono, and the rest of the team for a lot of information at a lot of different meetings. Also, thank you to the developers. I think I don't exactly know when all of this started, but what I will say is I know that the pieces of affordable housing weren't necessarily in that first project, but being able to work together to identify what could be possible. We know there's an area around the corner where there was a building that's, could have been redeveloped and it got demolished. And so just to see how can we have this impact on a corridor that, you drive up and down. We've had some other investments there, but want to see more activity. So I appreciate the efforts by the developer. I appreciate the efforts. They've been very actively engaged with the neighborhood association that is very adjacent to there. And I think many of us have probably also toured the space as well. So just wanted to say thank you for your work and the team's work behind this project.
Very good. Commissioner Perdue.
Thank you. Good morning. Echo those sentiments. Really excited to see this project or to support this project and see it come online. I also just want to make the point around the need to preserve affordability after a certain amount of time or certain incentives expire. And so I really hope to see this body continue to have conversations in that area so that we're not essentially moving around affordability with new project to new project, but we're really preserving it in the long term. Thank you.
Any additional comments or questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 3 is a resolution establishing an obsolete property rehabilitation district pursuant to Public Act 146 of 2000 for 655 Godfrey LLC at 655 Godfrey Avenue Southwest.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. This is just, as it related to the previous agenda item, this is just the establishment of the OPRA. Any questions or comments about this item? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 4 is a resolution approving a 12-year obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate pursuant to Public Act 146 of 2000 for 655 Godfrey LLC at 655 Godfrey Avenue Southwest.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Before we get to our 2 briefings for the day, we do need to go into a closed session this morning. So if we could get a motion to schedule a closed session for after this meeting is over.
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported. This is a roll call vote. We'll start with Commissioner Perdue.
Yes.
Sassy.
Yes.
Knight.
Yes.
Robbins.
Yes.
Moody.
Yes.
O'Connor, yes. Motion carries. We will go into closed session after Committee of the Whole. Next, we're going to jump to our briefings for the morning. Presentation and update from Disability Advocates of Kent County. And turn it over to, you want to say anything, City Manager, before we introduce Mr. Bulkowski?
Sure. And just real briefly in regard to the comment on the last items, just wanted to clarify that I believe the affordability period is 20 years for this project. And different than, I believe, our LIHTC period, the initial compliance period for LIHTC projects are only 15 years, and then the second 15 years, the developer could opt out. So I do applaud the team and the developer for being aggressive on the initial affordability period and continue to do so even more in the future. So with that, Mr. Bukowski, thank you for being here today. Commissioners, when there's been a lot of discussion around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and centrally, when we begin the conversation, it's often using the lens of race to begin the conversation because that's where a lot of disparities are often indicative of outcomes. But we know that the lens of DE&I is much more inclusive and it tends to include people of all race, ethnicities, as well as abilities. And we're fortunate to have a good partner in Disability Advocates with us to continue to help us to become a more inclusive and welcoming community. And they have done good work throughout a number of projects throughout our city. And are here today just to give a high-level overview. So with that, I will turn over to our good friend, Mr. Bukowski.
All right, thank you. And I'll try to be brief with my introductory remarks because, as I tell people, I have a great memory for worthless information. But the historical context is not worthless. I've been with Disability Advocates for just over 28 and a half years. And throughout that entire time, we've had a great partnership with the City of Grand Rapids. Some of us remember Ingrid Scott Weekly in the now Equity Office and her staff throughout the years, part of an ADA steering committee when that was passed in the 1990s and implemented by the city, and continually engaged. It's lost in the historical record when we started our first community development block grant contract with the city, but it's been well over 35 years that we've been working with city residents to remain in their homes where they want to be and the cheapest for them. So definitely an awesome relationship, and your continued commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We simply add the A, DEIA, for accessibility, because when we are snarky, we like to say disability is one of the only things that does not discriminate. Pick your group of humans and there's going to be a person with a disability in that group. So again, we kind of cut across everything. So anyways, your commitment to that is definitely noteworthy, and we believe is getting literally national attention about our partnership and the stuff that my colleague, Patrick Parks, who actually does the hard work and heavy lifting, where I just get to be the executive director and do those kinds of things and watch the fun happen. So enough for me. I'll turn it over to Patrick Parks, who's our absolutely accessible Kent business development coordinator.
Excellent. Thank you, Dave. And I wanted to echo Dave's thanks to all of you for having us here, and then also the wonderful partnership that we've enjoyed over the years. I've been with Disability Advocates coming up on 4 years in 2024, so not quite as long as Dave, but it's been an incredible partnership, and I'm excited to be here with you all. So going to our first slide here, Dave, can you okay, we can click it there. So just wanted to give you guys kind of, again, a high-level overview of some of the projects that we've worked on all throughout the city at various stages of completion or various stages, I guess, in the design process as well. One of the prominent ones is Lion Square. That was a very fun project to be able to inform some of those early decisions, especially down to even materials and things when we think about, you know, folks with white canes being able to tell when they've changed surfaces and using that as a wayfinding element, right? So Lion Square was a great example of that. We've been able to serve on the Calder Plaza Redesign Steering Committee, providing insights into that process. Right here in this vicinity, the elevator renovations and wayfinding signage that are ongoing. In fact, we just had a call, I believe it was last week, with the folks to discuss signage and some different ideas there. The Hill and River Network is one, and then even a couple of weeks ago as well, we had a wonderful conversation around the amphitheater and different features, again, down to those accessibility features that we sometimes lose in the bigger picture, but are just as important, such as adult changing tables and restrooms, such as equal access to the different loges in the facility itself. And then beyond even just the standing physical structures, obviously we'll have more of those come through the pipeline, and we'll continue to be there to support those. But social and cultural events are important as well, and being able to provide those accessibility insights to such events as Art Prize and World of Winter are pieces that we value too. And this comes through partnership with the city and also Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. That partnership has been a 4-year partnership going into its 4th year. And so those are kind of the high-level pieces of that partnership. I'll go into a little bit more detail on some of the downtown navigation. This is a project we launched again through that DGRI partnership. We're calling it the Accessibility Navigator Quick Guides. So we have 2 examples on the screen there. I know they're a bit hard to see, but we have one example of a parking garage facility there, and then another example of a venue. So 20 Monroe Live as the venue there. And really the impetus behind this work is this idea that oftentimes individuals with disabilities face a lot of uncertainty when they're traveling anywhere, whether it's downtown Grand Rapids or anywhere in the country, in terms of knowing where those accessibility features are to access. And unfortunately, we find that a lot of times when that uncertainty creeps up, many individuals are more likely to say, oh, I won't, attend this event, or I won't go, to this area to enjoy a downtown. And so we want to directly combat that with these navigator guides. And so currently with this collection of information, we're up to 88 different combination of venues and also parking lot and park areas that we have provided insights for. These are, obviously there's more work to do. It's an ongoing project in terms of covering, all of the great venues and parks that we have in the city, but I think we're off to a good start, and these are going to be launching hopefully soon this year and into 2024. I think early on DGRI's website, and then also linking out to other partners as well when we talk about area beyond downtown. And if we can move into the next slide here, talking about more broadly, the partnership with the city, we have Jackson Botsford, our accessibility specialist, who's an amazing asset to our team. I always say our team wouldn't function without Jackson and his insights around accessibility and universal design. He serves on the City of GR design team and is able to offer insights to those projects that come before the design team and then continued follow-up support. I have the pleasure of serving on the Mobile GR Commission as well, so being able to bring accessibility insights to mobility has been a very good experience. And then also, more recently, we've been involved in the city master planning process. Our community organizer, Michael Williams, is a community connector, and Michael and I have been able to be involved with quite a few of the neighborhood association move-in talks that have occurred, and again, bringing that accessibility perspective, but also encouraging those groups to reach out to their neighbors who know their communities best, who may have disabilities, and be able to offer those firsthand insights. And then, let's see, I think we have, yes, and so more of a stay tuned, and some of this work has already begun. City Manager Washington and Connie Bohatch have been wonderful partners in the first rounds of these discussions in terms of providing input from the city's perspective, but we have something we're calling the Access Collaborative, an Access Collaborative pilot. And our goal is to really bring together not only the City of GR, but all cities within the Metro 6 and the county to think about what are these kinds of shared best practices and some shared dialogue around accessibility, and can inform some of the, maybe some joint projects that cities can engage in around accessibility. Again, this idea of a broader shared commitment in the Grand Rapids area. So this, kind of the seeds of this project began about 1.5 years ago. As I said, with an initial round of discussions, we brought together all of the 6 cities to provide insights in terms of what accessibility support and information is most needed in terms of, and what are some of those initiatives that we could get together on in terms of tackling as a collaborative. What we found in those early discussions is that I think our initial vision of bringing together the 6 cities and the county as more of a council became, kind of unwieldy in terms of yet another standing commitment that, navigating busy schedules and individual projects, things of that nature. But what we found as we heard from the cities is that working with each of them individually around first designing a framework and then working with each of them individually to advance some projects within their confines would be a good first place to start, and then continue that shared dialogue. So as this sort of stay tuned, on the heels of those first discussions, we have interviewed each of the cities, and we are working on designing, again, taking that feedback, designing that framework going forward. And so this is kind of a stay tuned for the 2.0 phase of that work that's coming up. And then finally, just again to echo the thank you for having us here today, and just mainly a standing invitation to, leverage us as a resource. Definitely reach out to us with any concerns or questions you may have as they come up. Definitely visit our spaces, both our office space and our Home Accessibility Center. It's a space where we have the privilege of hosting anyone from individuals to families to builders, developers around accessibility solutions as they're thinking about how to make their spaces more accessible. And then also beyond just our physical space, a standing invitation as well to events that we will be hosting. We have a series of annual events every year: our ADA celebration, our Invest in Ability celebration, our Disability Awareness Day, and then an event that I have the privilege of coordinating, our Absolutely Accessible Kent workshop around inclusive design. And so again, just a thank you for the partnership, and then also that standing invitation to certainly use us as a resource, and don't be strangers in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen, for that presentation, and thank you for your ongoing partnership and leadership and continued advocacy. Turn it over to my colleagues if there's any questions or comments about any.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman is fine.
Disabilities Advocate has been around for quite some time. My family has used Disabilities Advocate for a number of years, and knowing Mr. Bukowski and former Commissioner Bukowski has been great. I do believe that we can continue our relationship because your program throughout the city of Grand Rapids has enhanced and changed the lives of a lot of people who have been under the stages of disability. I thank you. I thank you for your Disabilities Advocates helped change our home when my wife's aunt was living with us and she was unable to move. And you came in and showed us and gave us some ideals, and I really appreciate that. Have not forgotten that, so I can imagine what it's like helping other people and making the transformation for the city of Grand Rapids and for our downtown businesses as well. So I just want to say thank you for what you do.
Colleagues, any? Commissioner Stassi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you both for being here. And 28 years went by really fast. I don't know how many hairstyles you had during that time. Mr. Commissioner, thank you for your service. You know, truly, I think the thing that strikes me, and you said this at the beginning, City Manager, is, you know, we often think about diversity, sort of that first, the bias that we have is really around like race or ethnicity. And Dave, I feel like I've learned so much from you. And also this bringing other people into the work and recognizing that some things, our abilities sometimes are obvious or maybe not so obvious. And I have valued that as, working in other places of employment. And I think as we went through COVID, we became more aware of the different abilities that people have specifically in the workplace. But I'm also glad that we are considering it with all of our public infrastructure, especially a big thank you for the work around transportation, because I think that is an area that we have some continued work to do as we think about, not just Grand Rapids, but this region that we're in. So I value these updates because I get my updates from you all, but if we don't have these regular connection points, we might miss the finer details. So thank you both for the work.
Very good. City Manager Washington.
I too again want to thank Mr. Bukowski and Mr. Parks for the update today. And just as a point to remind the public and the commission that our disability policy is not just words, it's words in action by what you're taking action on today, as was mentioned. The improvement here at Monroe Center, up to $200,000 to improve accessibility. That's on your community development agenda, as well as the input that you will hear later in the upcoming presentation about our community master plan, how we continue to make this community more accessible and inclusive with universal design. And I'll share one story like Commissioner Moody. My mother was here walking in our city, and it was late at night, and there was a part of our sidewalk that was not accessible, and she tripped and fell. I did not make a claim against the city and fell, but I thought, how much better how much more difficult would it be not only for her to navigating it as a person who's walking, than for a person who was in a wheelchair. And if we have designed it for the people that are more likely needing those services, everyone would have a better experience, both whether you're in a wheelchair or you're walking throughout our city. So I want to continue to affirm that universal design standard.
Very good. Any additional comments? All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time today. All right, with that, we're going to move on to our final briefing, and that is going to be the Community Master Plan Second Round Engagement Update. And we'll invite to the dais our Planning Director, Ms. Turkelson.
Good morning. Thank you. I'd also like to offer my thanks to the Disability Advocates team. It's an invaluable resource when they partner with us on not only our design team, which are the projects that we see constructed in the city, and we take their feedback very seriously, and there's a clear message that we expect that feedback to be incorporated into the project design, but also for their work on the community master plan and finding those connections really serve our community well. So this morning, we're pleased to provide you with a brief update on where we're at with the community master plan. As you may recall, within our contract for this project, we have periodic updates that are provided to both you as well as the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission will hear a bit of a more detailed presentation that you'll hear today on Thursday, and certainly that will be live streamed, and you're welcome to tune in if you would like that additional feedback, just better aligns with their roles and responsibilities for this process. So round 3 of engagement, we are currently providing an update on round 2 of engagement as we move from kind of this big idea, this generative process, to more of a responsive process. We want to make sure that we're building each phase upon the other. So today is really a report out of round 2. Recall there are 4 rounds of the engagement for this project. Round 3 does begin, I guess, tomorrow. Round 3 begins, and we're actively planning for our next community engagement meeting, which will be the week of November 13th. So the 14th, 15th, and 16th of November will be the community parties, if you will, one in each ward. And over the coming week, I'll be sure to share a little bit more detail. We've got some exciting programs in place for each of those nights, a little bit different for each. So with that, I will turn over to our master plan consultant, Sarah Bongiorno of Planning Next, and she will lead us through the summary report. And certainly me and my team will be here if there's any questions. Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me back here. I think it was April when I was here giving the update after round 1, so time flies when you're having fun, which we have been. So as Kristen said, I'm going to give you a quick update here about what we learned and who we engaged in round 2. This slide, you saw this in April, but I know you work on a lot of different city initiatives and plans and projects, so I just wanted to remind you, this is we're defining a long-range vision for the city. The planning horizon's 20 years. It's going to describe the physical development of the community. It's addressing topics such as population change, what's going on with the economy, housing needs, transportation, et cetera. It's going to integrate both solid technical analysis and robust public input, and it is the underpinning for the necessary zoning ordinance. This is a timeline here. Do I have an arrow? Yeah. So, we're kind of bridging here, as Kristen said, between our 2 phases. We're about to enter our 3rd round of engagement here next month, but we have been processing the round 2, and again, the 4 rounds of engagement: equitable, inclusive, productive, and fun. We are moving from generating big ideas, understanding issues, understanding what people want to see in the future of Grand Rapids, to more responsive, right? We're taking that input, we're working with it, and we're crafting up recommendations and a plan framework to have them provide us feedback and direction. So the process is shifting a little bit. We're clear that this is self-selective qualitative data, but we're trying really hard, which you'll see in the next slides, to make sure that our input is representative of everybody in Grand Rapids. And of course, it's focused on topics within the Community Master Plan purview. So I put this up here. I know it's a little bit small on the screen there, but we have established what we're calling a plan framework. This helps organize all the recommendations and all the input for the plan. So we have a vision that sits at the top. It's really an expression of a community's future. We then have value threads and community goal areas. So the vision is what we've been testing, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. We are making some modifications to this vision with our steering committee, and they're meeting tomorrow. We've heard a few comments from folks who are going to address that. These value threads are really important. The 5 values: equity, safety, sustainability, climate justice, culture, and vibrancy, because those are so important that they cross over a lot of different topics within a master plan. So while having a chapter dedicated to it, we're almost elevating the priority of these, and there'll be cross-cutting themes across the plan. And so we're going to be working to make sure that our plan recommendations are moving the community forward relative relative to these values. And then our community goals, there at the bottom, we've got 5 goal areas that are going to eventually become chapter areas of the plan that will hold the recommendations of the plan. There'll be other chapters, background information, a process overview, implementation chapter. But this is starting to be the structure of the plan, and we've been testing this with the community and got some good feedback. So for our round 2 participation overview, we've engaged over 1,800 people. We feel really good about that. That's more than in our first round. We conducted engagement in a variety of formats. We had an in-person workshop. We kicked off this round back in May. We were also had a presence at the Neighborhood Summit. The Move and Talks, as our friends over at Disability Advocates mentioned, they were a partner with us in that and attended quite a few of those. Our community connectors and neighborhood associations conducted those out in the community. So they were workshops where people were out walking around their neighborhood in certain areas and providing some feedback. They also conducted one-on-one interviews. Staff attended youth camps throughout the city this summer. We had an online survey, and a lot of the neighborhood associations also went to different pop-ups and events happening across the community. We heard from people living in all 3 wards and majority of neighborhoods. And this asterisk here, this is data as of the 2nd of October. We are still getting a few more pieces of input, a few move and talks that had gotten delayed. We still want to incorporate them. So we expect this to modify a little bit, but majority of the input is here. So who did we hear from? I'm pleased to share that we've really hit our marks and we've closed the gap. You know, in round 1, we had a gap here in hearing from our Black African American community, but we've closed that gap, and we've worked really hard through our steering committee and our community connectors to focus on that for round 2. So we're excited for that, and we're going to be obviously continuing to focus on that for round 3. We continue to reach out and hear from the Hispanic and Latinx communities. So again, we've met our sort of goal here. The teal here is sort of the percentage from our round 2 participants, and the pink line represents the census data. So you can see where we are there relative to the overall community. We did better on age, but this elusive 18 to 24-year-olds, they're so hard to engage in any community. We were much more targeted, much more intentional this round. We didn't quite close the gap. We're continuing to work on that. We've got some good connections now with GRCC. We've had some connections through GVSU, but we're going to continue to work on that. We're really hopefully focusing our community connectors and our steering committee members to help us close that gap going forward. We did make quite a bit of progress here with a lot of the youth engagement over the summer. So this is feeling pretty good, and the rest of these age brackets look good. But we're all still focusing on that 18 to 24. Equally in the education, we were a little low in round 1. With hearing from folks that have a high school diploma or equivalent or some college. We have closed this gap. This was only, I think, around 4% in round 1, and we're at 13%. So we're moving in the right direction. We haven't closed the gap. We're going to continue to work that hard. And with the help of our steering committee and community connectors, we're hoping to close that gap. But again, this is good data for us to continue working. We're in the right direction, but we're going to continue to focus on that for round 3. As I mentioned earlier, we did a number of different formats, but we had several different engagement activities happening. In our workshops back in May, we had a session on the 15-minute community, educating folks about what that is and thinking about how to create their own 15-minute community. We also had input sessions on climate change, environmental justice, and health. The testing of the visions, values, and goals, that's our plan framework I mentioned earlier, happened through our online survey. Our community connectors and neighborhood associations were out doing those move-in talks. They were composed of 3 different engagement activities. They were telling stories. They brought storytellers in to tell stories about the history of neighborhoods and certain areas of neighborhoods. They did a sort of a move audit, looking around at what's happening on the ground in neighborhoods today, and then they got to envision the future a little bit as well. And then we had what we called a quick engagement survey with some feedback from our steering committee about having a really simple, maybe one question survey. We could go out through different pop-up events in the summer. And so there was what we call the magic wand question. It was, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you change in Grand Rapids? We collected over 1,000 magic wand ideas through that quick engagement activity. And then of course we had youth activities centered on students and youth at the different summer camps. So our key takeaways, and I'm summarizing over 2,000 pieces of input here into a very simplified slide here, but generally the vision, value, and goals tested well, receiving an average of 4.3 out of 5. So from our perspective and our experience, that's a very solid testing. These resonated with people. People appreciated the words that were used to describe the vision, the values, and the goals. However, there were many comments about incorporating sustainability more strongly into the vision statement. So that is something that we're working with the steering committee actually in their meeting tomorrow to address. Housing is still a primary concern of folks. Housing stock, affordability, maintenance, and support for unhoused were things that were mentioned across all of our different engagement activities. We also heard a lot about expanding recreation opportunities at parks, at existing parks, especially also through the riverfront and the rapids. There was a desire to make Grand Rapids easier to navigate without a car. So a lot of comments that sort of rolled up into more transportation access, more public transportation access, more protected bike lanes, sidewalks, crosswalks, things like that to make it easier to navigate. And then we heard some environmental concerns. A lot of it focused on more equitable access to green space across neighborhoods, but as well as reducing air pollution, a lot of references to US 131 with that particular. So as Kristen alluded to, we are gearing up for our round 3. It's coming up in November. And we have named this Visualizing Outcomes. Again, we're trying to take all the input that we've received and crafting some big ideas or some big moves that might come out of this plan to start getting people kind of introduced to some of the recommendations that are going to come down in the next round. So we're planning for 3 workshops. We're going back to that launch party model where we're having a meeting in each ward. They will be very similar. The input activities, what people can provide input on, will be the same in each of the different meetings. So people can choose whichever one's most convenient for them. We are working on lining up sort of what we're calling a special event for the first hour. These are 2-hour events, a guest speaker, a community-led panel discussion, and a performance. And we're still working out the details of how that's going to lay out, but we're hoping to have something kind of unique for each first hour and then input gathering the second hour. Our community connectors and neighborhood organizations are going to host what we're calling community conversations. Again, there are boots on the ground. They're out in the communities, meeting people where they are. So they are working alongside of us in this third round again. And when we are continuing to analyze and understand input from round 2 to develop recommendations of the plan. So we are really taking what people tell us to heart and really trying to understand what they need and what they're asking for, and then how that can translate into a community master plan recommendation. That's it. Any questions?
Very good. Thank you for the presentation. I guess I can start by turning it over to my colleagues to see if there's any questions. Mr. Robbins?
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the presentation. I just had one comment and then 2 quick questions. Comment-wise, I just appreciate the proportionate representation of our residents. I know that's something that was very important to us from the onset, and so to see the intentionality behind, closing certain gaps with different demographics, it's never going to be a perfect science, but it's definitely commendable, I think, at the types and variety of residents that you've been able to engage with. And then question-wise, so 1,834 people, I guess, how does that compare to the percentage of engagement compared to our total population? With your experience doing this in other communities, is that similar? Is that less than or over?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think it goes back to the approach here is obviously not a statistically valid sample. And, I would have to do the numbers there. There are math numbers you can run to see if you would be within that. Again, we're working with more representative data. So I go back to the charts, right, that show, because I don't want to, we could have reached 5,000 people, but if they were all over 65 from one demographic, that doesn't do much for us as far as like that. So again, I know it's like from a comparison standpoint, this is really good from our perspective. I mean, Grand Rapids is a big city, but you're not going to get, from our experience, you're not going to get, majority of people coming out. A lot of people, what to say, like the people who really care about the community have access to be able to come out. We're trying to, backfill that with community connectors who can go out into the community. So we're looking, I guess, to always increase our numbers, right? So we increase from round one. We'll pick up people as we go through the process. So we have to look at it again once we get through the whole process about how through 4 engagement rounds, how we've engaged. I can do a little math just to give you what the comparison would be. We can do a follow-up on that, but yeah.
I will also add, when I was on the consulting side of my career, which I don't think I'd go back to, but when I was on the consulting side, I think a lot of it really depends on what's happening within the community. We've had a lot of great planning work that has taken place since 2002. We've had routine updates through our area-specific plans. So we've been able to address a lot of the needs along the way. We haven't had this significant seismic shift in, there are certainly critical issues that we need to address, but we've been addressing them through these other efforts. So to compare it across a community that may not have been as responsive as the city of Grand Rapids has been, I think is a bit difficult to run those comparisons. So I would just add that as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kristen.
Yeah, thank you for that. And then my second question too, I guess, it's been awesome joining many of these events myself. I've really appreciated engaging with residents, especially in the first ward, to kind of hear and understand what their priorities are. But I think a lot of times when we had these conversations, they kind of revolved around bigger sort of like ethereal concepts. And I know the point of this is to talk about the built environment physically, what we want. And I think that there were certainly things pertaining to that were discussed, transportation, sustainability when it comes to our facilities. But I guess how do you intentionally direct those conversations to make sure that they're staying, pertinent to exactly what we want to know?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We had a conversation with staff about that, right? Because when you ask people what's on their minds, no matter what, even if you have a very specific question, people come with what's on their hearts, what's on their issue, what they're dealing with in that moment in their lives, and that's okay. We take that, we filter it for what we can use, for the master plan, and then we've been really intentional working with staff to make sure that input gets put into whatever other department might be able to use it for what they're working on. So I know that safety, for instance, right, is a big issue across a lot of communities right now. And there's certain things that this master plan can do relative to built environment, but we understand that there's other initiatives going on to create a strategic plan around safety through the police department or other departments. So, we are trying to stay in our lane, but again, in respect to what people bring to us, we're making sure that input doesn't get sort of just lost, right? I also think that when people share certain things, like a struggle or an issue or something they see, like we have to, as consultants and with professionals with our planning staff, be able to then make that leap over to what is a recommendation that the master plan can do to achieve that, right? There are certain land use and built environment recommendations that can move that needle for one part of it. We may not solve the whole issue, but we can do our part within the master plan.
Yeah, and I appreciate you passing along those themes to the rest of our staff too, because I think any information we can get from our community is valuable to us. But just from my experience and the conversations that have been had thus far, I've noticed that it does tend to err on the side of, just people saying what's on their mind as opposed to maybe what the questions directed towards the master plan process are hoping to get from people.
Yeah.
So just kind of a comment and a question, but thank you.
I guess one question for me is, as I look at the vision statement and sort of the tiers underneath that, and as I think about, the previous master plan, and I know as a community that grew and kind of outlived that plan, and the challenges that we're facing and dealing with every day in Grand Rapids right now. And a lot of the stuff in that vision statement are absolutely pertinent issues and things at the top of many of our minds. But for me, it feels like the vision statement seems a little short it seems less aspirational than I wish it was. In some degree, as one of our former colleagues always used to like to say, I want Grand Rapids to be the best mid-sized city in the country, and that feels more aspirational to again, these are the goals in the vision statement feel like good goals, but it doesn't to me feel like the vision of what I want Grand Rapids to alter. ultimately be. And then, again, it's going to operationalize itself in the adoption of the plan and the zoning amendments and the other things that are related to land use. But, for me, I really want to feel like, what is it that's going to make Grand Rapids the best place in the Midwest? And if we're going to continue to be a city that grows for the next 20 years, it just feels a little bit less enthusiastic and a little bit less lofty than, kind of putting some big, bold things out there. And again, I think the choice of words does matter.
It does.
And I also think, I look at this as the internal stakeholder conversation is great, but what ultimately is going to keep Grand Rapids and make Grand Rapids that place that people want to call home, whether they're here now or they're going to make the choice to move here, to invest here, to start a business here, to relocate a business here, to relocate a family here because of whatever the opportunities are. I'm still wondering what some of those external stakeholders would also have in this conversation to say, part of the reason that, somebody decides to make a choice to call Grand Rapids home, whether it's personally or professionally, is I think how's that going to be incorporated into the planning as well? And I just feel like, again, I think it's, and I'm glad that it's still being looked at and you're only halfway through the visioning, but I feel like we're, I don't want to sell ourselves short in this conversation because I think everyone else up here believes in Grand Rapids and does think it is and has the potential to be the best small, mid-sized city in the country. And I want a document that reflects that vision, not just, in a mediocre way.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Like you said, this is still draft. I should have put that on this slide. But nothing's in print yet. We are still working with our steering committee to make some refinements to that. So I'd like to, pitch that to them a little bit about how, is this really as aspirational as we can be? Is there anything we need to be thinking differently? I will say after reading this again, it is very much, from a resident's perspective, like you said, right? And I know that in some other communities that we work in, there was an intentional conversation about, the business community attracting, sometimes it's tourism for a particular city, the business attraction kind of thing as well. So we can continue to have conversations with staff and our steering committee about making sure that the vision is really at the right aspirational level, but also has the right tone that reflects residents first and foremost, but also not really excluding maybe some of those external stakeholders as well.
Thank you. Other colleagues with questions or comments? Commissioner Sassi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the presentation. I think the first event with all the competition will go down as one of my favorite things that I've gone to, mostly because I learned a lot, and I think people truly enjoyed being around each other. I think in the second round got lots of messages from different groups, sort of going and seeing versus just being in a, kind of one space. So I think that seems very positive. And then, it's been a while since we talked about the steering committee, but I see members here. I just want to acknowledge their work. So thank you all. And I think we had that's like a 50-person group, right?
Yeah, it's a big group.
So it was a large group of individuals. Of course, we want individual folks and other stakeholders to be a part of it. But I think sometimes, just like we're sitting up here, you can't get everybody, so you try to get a representation from a different neighborhood or different groups of people or their lived experiences. So I want to say thank you for them, because I know that's been a lot of work. I know it's been a lot of work managing it and staying connected to individuals. So I'm already put the date for the second Ward 1 in my calendar, and I'll look forward to learning more. And yes, I do think I was saying to the city clerk, yes, Commissioner Robbins, usually it's kind of what's in front of them, and I said deers, because somebody sent me a note about deers this morning on social media. So, I do think that is that place. And also, city manager, I know we have other departments there on that day of, so if something comes out of, gosh, I have this feeling and it's really, I need to go and talk to engineering, I need to go and talk to the water department, we have individuals there to be able to make sure that's not lost, right? But we can focus on what is our core responsibility there. So thanks.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Perdue.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you so much for the update. I am impressed with a lot of the progress that you made since we saw you last. Commissioner Khan, I think your comments around the aspirational vision are really interesting. It wasn't my first thought, but as soon as you said it, I can kind of see exactly what you're talking about, of just like something concise and ambitious to get around. And I think it's important to define what do we mean by best mid-sized cities. So I do think, some of the things that are listed in here, safe and affordable housing, living wages, vibrant spaces, are part of what might make us a best mid-sized city. So I think, it's a both and I think walking that line of what we can control.
Yeah.
So for example, best school system. Oh yes, we need that to be a top-tiered city, but we don't have a ton of control in City Hall around our school system, right? So you all have a task in front of you to kind of zero in on this a little bit more, but I do appreciate the direction and the engagement, because it is not easy to engage so many people over a long period of time with topics that can get really technical when you talk about development and planning. To that point around engagement, I think one of the challenges, there are certain types of people that opt into a lot of engagement events, right? Folks that are typically a little bit more active, folks who probably love the city or sometimes don't love the city, right? Kind of. And I think that's one of the challenges with really having a representative sample related to feelings and visions and experiences. So when meeting with some of the neighborhood associations in the Third Ward, someone posed a really great question of, when we get closer to the end and see those final recommendations, particularly the detailed ones, because we know how important this is to guiding decisions and plans for the next 20 years. If there are parts that folks really disagree with or aren't in full alignment or don't see, particularly for those area-specific plans, just think it should look a little bit differently. What is the process at that point? And part of the question, part of the thinking behind that question is we are going from this large conceptual into zoning in. And again, these can be really technical. So I'm just wondering for commissioners and for the public, if we get to that point where we want to see some tweaks towards the end of the process when we get to the tangibles, what might that look like?
Yeah, so we do have a final round of engagement, which right now on our schedule is going to happen sometime in April. Again, we're mapping out sort of now through into the process with staff to really understand all the different review periods and who needs to review everything in what order and things like that. But there will be absolutely a chance for the public to see the actual recommendations in the plan. It's a lot, as you said, so we get to think about how we roll that out so it's digestible for people. But we do want everyone to have a chance to review the plan, provide any comments, feedbacks, questions on a particular recommendation, and maybe even get some prioritization out of the public at that point too. Yeah.
I would also add, as part of that process, it is a very deliberative process through the adoption phase. So while we do have a whole engagement round centered on the draft recommendations, the full book, if you will, there's also a process or a point in time where the plan sits. And it sits intentionally for, I think it's 62 days, that allows for the public to provide comment. And one of the tasks that we have is we will collect all of the comments that are received and then also provide a response as to why or why not the plan was amended to address that comment, and or perhaps it's not a land use issue, perhaps I need to defer that comment to my colleagues in Mobile GR, for example. And so that document that I've mentioned will then be presented to the Planning Commission. And of course, it would be part of your packet as well, so that you will be very easily, it might be extensive, but we will be able to see all of the comments that we receive and what we did with it or what we couldn't do with it. So that's another piece of this.
Yeah, that's really helpful to know. Thank you. Last question, the community goals section, are those the same categories as the last master plan?
Some of them are. I think there were I'm going to say 7 chapters in the last plan. Some of those, like the sustainability piece, we felt like was so important. Sustainability is hard to put in its own silo because it touches so many things, right? And so to elevate it, I think, and to make sure that we're really thinking of sustainability in relation to different topical areas, that was a decision to sort of make that more of a value and cross-cutting thread. In talking with staff and in our the pre-planning work that the staff did, we heard from community that those areas still kind of were something that they thought was important that we need to still work towards. We want great neighborhoods, we want vital business districts, a strong economy, balanced mobility. So, the whole adage of let's not fix what's not broken kind of thing, we're carrying those through. We did add like in the last one, development character, we added desirable development character, because each one kind of leads with, like a qualifier. Like, it's not just about neighborhoods, it's great neighborhoods. It's not just business districts, it's vital business districts. So we added that piece to that one, but they're similar from the 2002 plan. And those tested well with the public in the pre-planning phase as well.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank our planning department, our director, and the staff, Kristen, and all of her team for their work, and certainly Planning Next and all of the task force for getting us to this point. I do think it's important we take this moment that only this commission will get, and this planning commission will get for the next 20 years in this task force, to be very deliberative about a future that goes well beyond our time on this dais in the city, and to really view this not only as a preference of our residents, which is, residents' voice is very important, but how competitive we are going to be in our state, our region, our country, for the competition for retaining residents, for the competition of making sure, we talked about education, making sure when children graduate from our school system that we have opportunities for them to be educated in our community, as well as to be employed and then to live in this great community, and the competition for business and the competition to have a livable community given all the constraint on our natural resources, an environment that we're seeing all over the country. And so to that end, the opportunity to be bold and to be creative about a future that may be hard to see now is very important in this document. To really to really take this time to think very holistically, and for us to think of how do we become that destination where people want to go to, where they don't want to leave, and where everyone feels like they belong. And I know that I appreciate that this is an early phase and we are testing this as we go, and there'll be iterations, but this body won't be able to test it as much. So I appreciate getting early feedback before the conversation gets too far down the road. A couple other points I'd like to just make kind of high level. I think we talked about what are some of those things that make us a great city. Obviously, with sustainability and livability, density is something that's really, really measurable. We compare to other communities, and it also helps us achieve some of our housing objectives. The other thing around the preservation of our natural resources is important, and ensuring that there's good quality resources. But I think in other communities that I've been part of, where they plan for the next 20 years and they talk about expansion, they plan for annexation and other land use outside of their city boundaries. And I think if we are going to be a regional leader, obviously we cannot just take over other municipalities, but if there are conversations about, how do we take advantage of land opportunities that may not be in our city limits, there are some tools around 425, but there may be other communities, if the service levels are something that we're able to provide, may want to reconsider in terms of the growth of Grand Rapids and how that impacts their community, and whether or not they're better served being separate from our city or included in our city. And those, I think, are conversations that I know other cities have. As they grow, they look at their ETJ to see if that is growing as well. The other thought that I had was on the topic around balanced mobility, and having, and I don't know quite what the intent is. I'm sure there's an explanation that'll come further, but I'd like to add expanded mobility options as one. In addition to the balance, we know that the modes of mobility options have to increase. And then lastly, with the conversation that's happening in the east part of our state. We talk about sustainability. We know the hardest, and I need to be careful. I say this. This is not a preference of the City Commission. This is just something we need to think of. Let me be clear. I see Michael there in the audience. This is not a policy issue. It's a topic. But Ann Arbor right now is talking about energy and municipally owned utility, and you don't do that overnight. And you see the cost issues that they're talking about and the type of investment. But I think as we speak about sustainability and best ways to decarbonize, and consumers and DTE are doing great work, but as the second largest city in the state, we too need to start thinking about what that future might look like from a utility perspective. And I think those are some of the futuristic conversations that hopefully, and I know, going back to Commissioner Robbins, that this gets to ultimately land use, but it also gets to how we want to use the land in addition to the residents' perspective, but what other ways could we create more livability in our community. So I'm encouraged about what I see so far, and glad to know that this is an iterative process, and look forward to getting more updates in the future.
Great. Thank you.
Very good. Colleagues, any additional comments or questions related to this master plan update? All right.
Right.
With that, we thank you for your time and your ongoing work to help facilitate this process.
Thank you.
All right. With that, that will conclude our committee of the whole, and we will now meet downstairs for our closed session in the law library. Thank you, everyone.